was a sunny Sunday morning when I was sitting in the meeting room on the 4th floor of our building with my two co-founders, Maxim and Mandeep. We were having this debate about introducing flexi times into our business. Mandeep was arguing his case very well, as always, saying something along the lines of, we need to be more flexible. We need to allow people to come into the office anytime before 11 and leave anytime after 4. Well, I wasn't really happy about that. How am I supposed to micromanage people if I have no clue what time they're in? That was a thought that crossed my mind, and I think it was related with the way that I grew up and how I got to that position. So I'm from Cyprus. I went to school in Cyprus. Schools there start at 7:30 and at 1:30. There's a very rigid and strict framework of how they evaluate you for your strengths and how they punish you for your weaknesses. This didn't change during my army service, as you can probably imagine. But then I went to uni, and that was a change. That was freedom, right? You don't have any control. You can do whatever you want. You have courses you don't really need to go to. So I kind of changed my mindset, right? But that didn't really work out. So after I missed most of my assessments, I decided that I need to kind of start working again. So I put a timeline around it. I was working hard, and I kind of managed at the end to successfully complete it. The interesting thing about what happened to me when I was talking to my co-founders is that my mindset was fixated on the experience that I had before. That when you work hard and you put a timeline around it, then you succeed. But I think what we usually don't do as people, and I don't want to throw anything to politicians, but sometimes it's good to ask, why not? Why not find a better way to do a specific task? Why not rethink a specific process? And so I started asking myself, well, why not find a better way to work with the people that I collaborate with? And this is a journey that I want to take you with me today. So I'm going to pick a very light subject, religion. And let's talk about the physical space of the church. So up to the 14th century, people would go to church not only to worship, they would go to church to educate themselves, because that's the only place where access to information was. People had to go there in order to be able to educate themselves. Then in the 1450s, Gutenberg invented this technology called the book press. What that meant was that books were being produced faster at a lower cost, and people started buying books, started learning to read. They started educating themselves and forming their own opinions about specific matters. What is important is that the locality of information changed. Before we had one specific space where we could learn. Now everyone in their own homes would have access to information. Now going 20 years ago, we had built physical spaces like universities and libraries and schools where people would go to educate themselves. In business, this would mean something like this, the typical filing room, right? People could only perform their work when they went to the workspace. As a human species, we were quite inventive, and so we knew that this wasn't scalable. We couldn't grow our businesses anymore. So welcome to the digital era. The mess we just had a look at is now neatly stored in bits and bytes in data centers that we probably don't even know where are located. But what is important is that we were free from the physical space. We were now able to access the information from anywhere at any time. Now, one of the things that I do at my company is I think of ways of finding tools to basically collaborate better. And this is kind of our setup right now. So we use Dropbox to store our files. We use Slack as our internal chat messenger, Google Hangouts for voice communications and video, and then Gmail as our main tool for email. But we also use a long tail of other services, maybe 50 or 60 of those, in order to handle other complexities like finance, accounting, etc. What is important, though, is that this way we can provide access to communication and access to information at any point of time to everyone that is part of our business. Now this, you will think, well, okay, fine, it has like a small impact on your business, but let's think about the big picture. If 40% of the US workforce that is able to work remotely chose to do so at any point of time, the nation would benefit from 280 million barrels of oil less being imported. That's 37% of Gulf oil imports in the States. The environment would benefit from a decrease in pollution equivalent to taking 9 million cars off the streets. Now, you might ask yourself, well, is this even realistic? Is this ever going to happen? Well, telecommuting or remote working is quite established, right? In the States, we have 69 million people, according to Forrester, that are able to work remotely. They are able to work from home. 2 in 5 choose to do so very frequently. 10% work solely from home. This spans across sectors: healthcare, telecommunication, sales. But let's go a step back and think about those examples that can show us what will happen in the future. The first remote telesurgery happened on the 7th of September 2001, where a French surgeon in New York performed an operation on a lady, a 68-year-old lady in Strasbourg, France. Now, I wouldn't want to be on this table, and that's an ethics discussion, probably we should leave that on the side. But what is important is that was 15 years ago. Now, pair this with the progress in virtual reality. Microsoft demoed the HoloLens about a year ago, which is a device that allows you to display physical holograms in the physical space. A couple of weeks ago, they released this video where in the bottom upper left corner, you see a person in a separate room wearing the device. In the bottom left corner, you see the main person in the main room, what he sees. And what you see is the hologram of a person moving in a space. If you haven't seen this video, you should definitely do so. But what is very, very important is that if we're looking at the future, we're looking at a future where not only we are able to remotely access devices and operate them in the precision that the surgeon had, but also we are blurring the line between what's virtual and what's real. Not everyone agrees. So Marissa Mayer was the CEO of Yahoo back in 2013, decided to ban remote working from home. Why? Because there was this notion in the company that some people didn't really buy enough into the company and weren't really present, weren't really performing their job. Now, this sparked huge debates, and you had basically two camps: people that had experienced remote working and had done it right and were feeling that, okay, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and then people with bad experiences. But I think the most important thing that kind of came out to me through this debate was that by incorporating remote working, we get one thing: we get flexibility. We are able to structure our businesses and the culture of our businesses not on a generic level, but based on the individual itself. And at my company, Trouva, we thrive by inspiring individuality. We handpick independent boutiques in London who can offer some color in an otherwise chain-dominated world by offering an alternative. We are offering products to consumers that they wouldn't necessarily find anywhere else, unique products with which they can express their individuality. I, as an entrepreneur, started this business because I saw a problem and I wanted to solve it. For me, it's not work, it's what I believe in. It's what I do on a daily basis in order to make the world a little bit better. And I think this is the notion that I'm trying to move down into my company as well. For me, the future successful companies will be the ones that will do whatever they can to get as much buy-in from their employees as possible. And the future successful employees will be the ones that will work for people that they are inspired by, for companies that they feel that the vision is aligned with their own personal interests. Over the past 3 years, we've done a lot of different things at my company, and I don't think that we've succeeded yet in terms of building that perfect culture. But everything we do is surrounded by 3 core values. It's all about trust, transparency, and openness. For me, the most important things are the small things that I see that my team is doing for me. When on a Saturday night, I have people from my team replying to customer issues because they feel that the company has to be in the front of people's mind. They want to be able to say that the brand is the best brand out there. Then that is what inspires me to be going on and to moving on. So how can we all be part of the future workspace? I always thought about, well, there's one thing that I want to say at the end of the talk that is going to inspire at least one person. I would be happy if that happens. But basically, if there's one thing that I would like to tell you is that we should all stop limiting ourselves by the notion of locality in order to achieve the vision and the things that we aspire for. Especially now that technology and the intertwining of cultures has brought us so close. We need to traverse space and time and find those things we really believe in and not be limited by where we are. So why not do we embrace the ambiguity of presence? Thank you.